Furious 7 stars Vin Diesel, Paul Walker, Michelle Rodriguez, Tyrese Gibson, Ludacris, Dwayne Johnson, as well as Jason Statham. This movie follows Dominic Toretto and his crew who are being hunted by a mercenary and they have to stop him. Let me say this right off the bat. This movie is really good. Furious 7 is one of the better films that came out in the year 2015. Let's start talking about the performances. Vin Diesel does a good job as Dominic Toretto. Paul Walker also does a good job in his final film role. Michelle Rodriguez does well as Letty. Tyrese Gibson and Ludacris are entertaining as Roman and Tej. Dwayne Johnson doesn't have much screen time, but he is great for the screen time he has. Jason Statham shines as the villain Deckard Shaw. The action scenes are a lot of fun. There's a lot of well done car chases and hand-to-hand fights. And of course, the tribute to Paul Walker at the end of this movie is absolutely perfect. Overall, Furious 7 is my favorite Fast and Furious film, and if I'm being honest, this is where the franchise should have ended. Furious 7 gets an A. The Fate of the Furious stars Vin Diesel, Dwayne Johnson, Charlize Theron, as well as Jason Statham. This movie follows Dominic Toretto, who goes rogue and turns against his own family, and his team needs to figure out what's going on. Let me say this right off the bat. This movie is good. Fate of the Furious is an enjoyable movie. Let's start talking about the performances. Vin Diesel is good as Dominic Toretto. Charlize Theron was fantastic as the villain Cypher. Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham are awesome as Luke Hobbs and Deckard Shaw. They are the best parts of the movie. The action scenes are a lot of fun and there's good humor in this movie. Overall, Fate of the Furious is an entertaining movie, and while this movie wasn't exactly necessary to make, it's far from being the worst Fast and Furious movie. The Fate of the Furious gets a B-. Hobbs and Shaw stars Dwayne Johnson, Jason Statham, Vanessa Kirby, as well as Idris Elba. This movie follows Luke Hobbs, who teams up with Deckard Shaw to stop a cybernetically enhanced villain. Let me say this right off the bat. This movie is fun. Hobbs and Shaw is a ridiculous movie that's self-aware of what it is. Let's start talking about the performances. Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham are awesome as Luke Hobbs and Deckard Shaw. They are the best parts of the movie. Vanessa Kirby does well in her role. Idris Elba relishes his role as the villain Brixton. The action scenes are a lot of fun and there's good humor in this movie. Overall, Hobbs and Shaw isn't anything spectacular, but I still had a good time with it. Hobbs and Shaw gets a B-. F9 stars Vin Diesel, Michelle Rodriguez, Tyrese Gibson, Ludacris, as well as John Cena. This movie follows Dominic Toretto going up against his long-lost brother Jacob Toretto. Let me say this right off the bat. This movie is not that great. F9 is my least favorite film of the franchise. Let's start talking about the performances. Vin Diesel is good as Dominic Toretto. Michelle Rodriguez is good as Letty. Tyrese Gibson and Ludacris are both entertaining as Roman and Tej. John Cena is really good as Jacob Toretto, and if I'm being honest, he's the best thing in this movie. There is a fun chase scene in the beginning of this movie and a fun fight scene in Tokyo, but here are my problems with this movie. The middle section of this movie is incredibly boring, and by the time we got to the final fight between Dom and Jacob, I just didn't care anymore. Also, the explanation for how Han is still alive is convoluted and doesn't make any sense. Overall, F9 did not work for me. If you guys enjoyed it, I'm glad for you, but this film was a miss. F9 gets a C-.